Number one, under general business, approval of the agenda.
Move to approve.
Motion been made, seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Two, approval of the minutes from the February 27th, 2017 Traffic, Bicycle, and Pedestrian Commission meeting.
Move to approve.
Seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Three, initial request. Consideration with possible action on the request by the traffic engineer to remove the no parking 30-minute loading only zone on the south side of Elm Street from Madison Street to Monroe Avenue and replace it with a no parking zone.
What you see on the screen is an image of the area. You can see where the push pin is. It's the south side of Elm Street between Madison, which is on the west, and Monroe, which is on the east, which turns into University over the East River. This whole block here, as you may know, this is Camera Corner, what I'm pointing out right now, and this building that's shown here was knocked down and they built the Technology Center, and then this area right in here is actually parking. Associated Bank is, I don't know if they own it or they lease it, but that's their parking. So zooming in a little bit closer, you can see there's a little loading dock right here, and subsequently there was a 30-minute loading zone on the street. Well, with all of this being gone and it's all being parking now, the loading zone is not needed. So it's something that I had seen in travels and had some discussions with my sign shop on it and just wanted to find out what to do on it. So we just figured that since there's no parking here at the corner, a long one here and a long one there, and basically you got a no parking 30-minute loading zone, we'll just make the whole south side of that street no parking. So that's what my recommendation is.
Motion been made, second.
Will Santa still be able to? We're not going to put a. Never mind. Ignore me.
So who?
Motion to approve.
Okay, you seconded?
Second.
Did I hear a second?
Sure.
Okay, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
And
Four.
who is that made by?
Dan and
Dan.
Alderman
You guys speak
Sano.
up, Dan. I'm a little deaf today.
Consideration with possible action on the request from Alderman Zimba on behalf of Georgia Pacific Broadway Mill to install a rectangular rapid flashing beacon on the south side of Broadway at their contractor parking lot mid-block crosswalk.
I had received a letter from Guy Zimba, which was actually from Georgia Pacific to the Alder. I have that letter here. It's basically requesting it. They said they'd be willing to pay for it. They show a map of where they want to have it, which is, as you can see here, this parking exists over here, and then they have this contractor lot over here. The letter itself does state some items here relative to how busy that lot gets. It's 100+ contractors working at the facility. In 2016, they issued approximately 6,100 access badges to contractors. Since they park across the street, they must cross Broadway. Typical start times at the mill are between 5:30 a.m. and 7 a.m. Monday through Friday. Their typical leave times are between 3 and 5:30 p.m. Monday through Friday. So they're concerned because Broadway's busy. Many drivers travel above the posted speed, or that's what they report. And depending on the time of year, it may still be dark when contractors are crossing the street, so having a warning signal would alert drivers to the presence of pedestrians and cause them to slow down. So this letter was actually sparked from a conversation I did have with the requester. It was actually someone else, but this is someone, their public affairs manager, that actually crafted the letter. And I told them, I said, in order for these RRFBs are called, in order for them to get installed, we have to do a study to justify them. Not only we like to justify mid-block crossings, which this already is a mid-block crossing. I mean, everything's there, the signs are there, the markings, etc. But because RRFBs are under interim approval by the Federal Highway Administration, these are locations that we want to make sure that if it's going to go in, it better be the right decision, and then we actually file that with FHWA. So it does take a letter. Each agency that has jurisdiction over roadways has to ask for use of the RRFBs. I'm thinking, Matt, you probably remember a number of years ago in District 12, there was a request for one near Southwest High School. Chuck, you probably do as well. So at that time, because of that request, one of the motions from Traffic Commission was to actually have the city request approval for our RFB installation, just on a blanket approval. You know, basically we can install them, and all we have to do then is just tell the FHW where they are and then show them justification for it. So this is, I guess, really in line with our approval with FHW. It's just really going through the process of making the justification, studying it, and then coming back with a recommendation. So I am recommending this request be referred to staff for study.
Your motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. 5, consideration with possible action on a request by Alderman Zimmer to consider placing yield signs at 14th Avenue and 8th Street.
This came through the communication from council, from the elder. Just to give you an idea where this is located, this is Ashland Avenue, this is Mason Street. So the signal at 9th and 12th is about right here. And so I'll go 2 blocks to the west and 1 block to the north, and that's where we're located, real close to Marquette Park. Looking at this location, you can see that the east approach is a dead end. It actually looks like a dead end, but actually it tees into an alley here. It serves 1 residence on the north and 1 on the south. I do have photos from the site. So looking here, this is that east approach looking to the north. You can see clear sight lines. You can see vehicles hundreds of feet down. Same thing looking south. This is 9th Street in the background. You can see that. And then this is from the other approach, the west leg looking south and then looking north. So I didn't see anything that really stood out to me when I was there. I mean, it's a really low volume location. I mean, this is all residential. The only people that are really going through here, I think, are going to be residences or people visiting those residences. Doesn't really seem like a convenient cut through or anything like that. So not really sure what the real purpose or reason is. So subsequently, I looked at crash data, looking back 5 years. It was almost 5 years ago where I found one, October 2012. It was a non-reportable minor damage to a cell phone and a westbound motorist. Didn't say who was at fault or anything, but you know, 1 crash in 5 years, and it's a very low severity type crash, non-reportable. I didn't really see any sort of need to change it, especially when we have just the one approach is just serves 2 people, and I mean it does serve an alley, but the alley is also accessible from 9th Street and Victory Hill, which are busier streets anyway. So didn't really see the need for it. So if I don't see the need, I don't really see the need to change either. So I really don't have a recommendation at that time other than to leave it the way it is.
Mr. Chairman, I'd move to receive and place on file.
Okay. Motion
Second,
made.
could I ask a question
Certainly.
first? Do you know why Alder Zimmer? It seems, was it just complaints he's getting from his constituents, or do you know, have any idea what prompted this? I mean, it really does seem like a weird place to put a yield sign there. But
Right.
it doesn't really seem.
When you drive it, it's pretty obvious. I mean, even from the aerial, but when you drive it, it feels as though the side street, this 8th Street, the one at the dead end, really feels like that's the minor street. And actually, the streets don't even line up exactly. So even more so when you're coming up to it, it's kind of like, well, this doesn't really even feel like a through street, so you stop anyway. So I just didn't really see a need for it, and I think that intuitively people are probably driving it like it's a 2-way yield anyway. So, but I don't know. I usually, in order to make a recommendation, I like to at least uncover something to say, wow, okay, we can try to correct something here. But we got a location that's very low volume, and I just didn't see a need to change it. So really no need.
Was he looking for him on 14th or on 8th? I mean, I'll second Dan's motion. Just curiosity.
The actual request, it just says consider placing yield signs at 14th Avenue and 8th Street. Doesn't actually say which street. So I honestly don't have an idea on which it would be. You know, oftentimes when we get the requests, you know, they are what they are, but then we'll look at it and then give a recommendation. You know, in this case, if let's just say that there was a crash history or something like that, I would probably say, well, then install yields on 8th Street. That would be the most intuitive, and you know what I mean. One's more of a major street, carries more traffic than the other. But like I said, I just didn't see the need.
Just if council comes back and says you got to put something up, I agree with your assessment. So.
Okay, motion remained and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Refer back from study. Item 6, consideration with possible action on the study by the traffic engineer responding to the request to modify the operation of the eastbound left turn arrow on East Mason Street and Alpine Drive, so it only takes one vehicle to activate the green arrow.
So just to reiterate what we had summarized at the last meeting, which is actually a December meeting, regarding this item, was the requester was asking that it be moved from a second car back, you know, so it takes 2 or more vehicles to activate that left turn, and move it to first car. And he had claimed that it's hard to see around vehicles, opposing vehicles. You know, if there's another left turn vehicle in the opposing direction, it was hard to see around them. If there's a crest hill between 43 and Alpine, that, in his opinion, was creating an issue. So what I had sought out was to A, look at crash history, and B, to actually do a field evaluation and to look at the geometry of the intersection, just to see if I seen a need for moving it to first car, or if there was any other recommendations. If there was a safety issue, what would they be? So as part of the crash evaluation, I did hand out some information for you, and that summarizes. You'll see on there's 8 crashes, but technically there's really only 7 that involve eastbound and northbound left turning vehicles. Now put this in context of over the last 5 years, there's been a total of 77 crashes at the intersection. So we're seeing, you know, less than 10% of the crashes are happening here. Of those crashes, none had any exclusive characteristics that indicate the crash may have been prevented if first car detection was available. So we can go over those if you'd like, or if you just want a summary. You can see, you know, there's 5 reportables, 3 non-reportables. There were some injuries, you know, and under comments, you'll see that's really more just 2-3 sentences that summarize who was at fault, what took place, weather conditions, if there was any citations issued. Then the last column is, you know, I really have to look at the question, would first car detection have solved those, or potentially reduced impact or eliminated those crashes at all. Out of all of them, I couldn't find a single one that I thought first car would actually have prevented the crash. I think there's a lot of unknowns, because as you read these crash reports, oftentimes you don't know when that motorist arrived at the intersection. So they could have been sitting there, they're the only vehicle, they're on a red, it turns green with no arrow, then they're waiting the entire cycle, then they take a left on a yellow or a red and get hit. That's what I seen predominantly what would happen. I mean, not the first part, but that it was more of a yellow-red type of violation. Sometimes it was the left turner that was at fault. Sometimes it was actually the westbound vehicle that was, say, speeding and blatantly running a red light, and the person just unfortunately got hit. So really looking at the crashes themselves. That's what I mostly wanted to focus on is, okay, of the nature of these crashes, and let's presume, you know, I'm not going to necessarily tell you yet, but I will tell you what the results of my evaluation are. But let's just presume for a moment that there was a sight distance issue, that you couldn't see around the vehicles, and that there was an issue with the crest of the hill. Then the solution wouldn't be first car back. It would be protected only left, as in you can only take a left on a green arrow. That's how you solve a problem like this. It doesn't get rid of any of the permissive lefts if you just go first car back. So I'm just going to get that out of the way right away. So that was really the crash history. The predominant crashes that I actually saw at the intersection were more westbound related. A lot of rear end crashes in the westbound direction. So, and then the other ones were more north and south. People, turning left in front of other people, just on Alpine, not on Mason Street. But that just has circular green indications. So. Let me see, I did a left turn conflict analysis. This is something that if we were actually looking at evaluating installing a signal, a left turn conflict analysis is done per Wisconsin DOT standards. If you're following theirs, it's kind of an added thing that they add to doing warranty evaluations. And I've always interpreted, I think a lot of people in the industry interpret the left turn conflict analysis as more like, if you are exceeding these numbers, you should probably be considering a left turn arrow as well when you're installing that traffic signal. When I conducted that evaluation, didn't even exceed those numbers. So read between the lines on that or interpret on that. They're saying that a left turn arrow is even optional in this case based off of the volume and then the opposing volume. That's all the number is you look at the peak hour of lefts, and you multiply that by the sum of the through and the right, the conflicting movements, and if it exceeds 100,000 in this case, then it would. So it was actually, I think, 75,000. So I mean, Mason's a busy street, but the number of left turns were relatively low. So it did not meet that. I guess the last thing, well, we'll get right to it. Was looking at the actual distance. So I did take some video of the intersection and looked at, and I drove it, of course, personally myself, just to evaluate where you can first start to see something. So wait for the condition for an opposing left turn, and if you're taking this permissive left, you can creep out into the intersection a little bit, and then you see when can that first person appear in that inside opposing lane, because that's the one that's going to be the closest. I estimated about 700 feet. That's where I was able to comfortably see somebody, and driving it the other direction too, going westbound and kind of seeing if there's someone in that left turn lane and when can I first start to see someone in that left turn lane. It was about the same, so around 700 feet. One item I look at is what sort of stopping or braking time and distance would be required. Let's just say that there was a situation and a braking activity would have to occur. So just looking into that, I did calculate a number for that. At the posted speed, which is 40 miles an hour, it's we have a braking deceleration distance of 76 feet and a perception reaction distance of 88 feet for a total of 164. We've heard reports of speeding in that area. I haven't confirmed them, but anecdotally, I could see traffic coming off of a 70-mile-an-hour I-43 facility, coming onto a Mason Street, coming into town. Okay, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. So let's just say they're going 10 over the posted speed at 50. You're looking at a total stopping distance of 229 feet. So those are the distances I look at and compare that relative to how far it is before you can really see someone. So there definitely is a big difference between those two. Now, if that distance was to see that vehicle was near or less than that, then I'd say we'd be looking at probably protected only lefts. First car detection, we'd be looking at protected only lefts. Similar like what you see at Mason and Military. You can only take that left on that arrow. So that being said, I can't come up with any reason to see why first car detection is going to really address any issues at this point. Looking at the volumes for that left turn are relatively low. They vary from 29 to 95. This was a sample taken last year, last May. We had it as part of our counting program, so we did a 12-hour count. So I was able to look at the peaks versus the non-peaks. I think the average left turn was about 62 or 63 vehicles in an hour. So that's about 1 a minute coming in. So it's pretty low volume. Last thing I'll bring up is that, and I mentioned before about the westbound crashes, you know, there's 77 crashes. The majority of the crashes, from what I had seen, were westbound related. So if you go first car on a low volume like that, so every time there's just one vehicle coming up, what you're really doing is effectively adding red time to Mason Street. And in my opinion, if you've already got a rear end crash issue going on with Mason Street and adding red time, I think you're just going to increase the number of rear end crashes. So actually, I think that's a negative part of actually going first car here. So I don't really think it's going to solve anything. I think it's more of a convenience for people. You know, people like to come up to a light and just get an arrow, and you know, some places, you know, it's required. Some places it's not. I just do not see it this as a location that was required. So that being said, my recommendation is receive and place on file the request.
You can't time that at different hours, can you?
Excuse me?
I mean, during the day, you're saying there's 60 cars an hour?
That on average.
On average,
yeah,
so-
it varied from 29 to, what I say, 95.
So
Yeah, I just added those up.
are the people who are not
60.
liking it the ones who come there at late hours or early morning hours? Because you might wait. How long?
What's that?
You might, I mean, if you went there at 11 o'clock at night, chances are you might wait 2 or 3 minutes. I don't know. Is there any way you can time
Oh, no,
that?
it dwells on green on Mason Street. So let's just say in your condition, you pull up to the light, let's just say it's red. You pull up and it's red, and you come up into that left turn lane, it will turn to solid green for you as soon as the side street clears. We operate that signal in a freer actuated mode. So under those times, what happens, and even if it was under, you know, even in the middle of the day and it was light traffic, it always defaults to Mason Street green. So once the traffic clears up on Alpine, then it resorts back to green regardless of the calls on Mason Street.
Okay, so you're not sitting there 2 or 3 minutes? Okay, all right.
Nope.
Interesting.
I'll make the motion to receive and place on file.
Second?
Motion been made, seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. 90-day trial periods. You want to run them together, Dave, or?
Yes. They are all relative to one area, one block. This is that 100 block of North Washington Street. So this was the conversion, this is post Metro Apartments development. So during that construction, Nicolay had some temporary parking on the street because their parking was negatively impacted because of that's where the lot was. So they have parking now underneath. There's parking for Nicolay underneath the Metro complex in between there. So that was always temporary in nature, but we had to make it permanent just because we knew it was a number of, it was, you know, definitely over a year, so we had to get that permanent. So basically what we're doing is getting rid of that zone. We did put in a couple of meters, and then we also added a loading zone as well. This is something that I'm sure Randy, and you know, being your district, you know, loading can, you know, we get a lot of calls from business owners in there. And we've worked very closely with the business owners to appease them because, you know, they do get deliveries and people, you know, whether it's a semi, you know, for a beer delivery or just a small FedEx truck or something like that. So we see the need for loading, so we actually did end up adding a loading zone there. So that's really what all 7, 8, 9, and 10 pertain to, is just changing all that to putting back a no parking here to corner zone to preserve that cell phone right at the traffic signal at Walnut, Washington, adding the loading zone in front of Metro, and then putting putting some meters in. So I make a recommendation to move those to ordinance.
Mr. Chairman.
Can we take them all at once, or just?
Yeah.
Take them all.
Take them all at once.
Yeah,
7 through 10 in mass.
yeah, make a motion to take 7 through 10 in mass.
Do you need to read them in at all just to be official, or do you think it'll be fine by reference?
I think we'll find by reference, or
Okay.
I think wherever we do it that way, I believe, so. Okay, motion for 7, to approve 7 through 10, seconded. Second, all in
Who's
favor?
first, you?
Dan.
Randy.
Randy?
I made the motion, yeah.
Okay.
Going for Barb's record tonight, aren't you? That's first. Motion made, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Approved. No other items on the agenda?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Second, we're adjourned.
Woo-hoo!
Quick.
Good one.
28 minutes,
Pretty good.
almost a record.
Yeah, for-
Well, that was so quick that I can't even find the page for me to jot that down for the journey. That was a big
Now,
deal.
what happened with the ARPA?
Dave said we're gonna be done in 14 and a half.
It's on the
Next
agenda,
time he gives a time
but it's
estimate,
written
we multiply by
Inside,
Just
all
double
we're
it,
doing is
huh?
recommending, doing a letter of recommendation, and I don't know who we're doing
that's
a letter of
pretty quick.
recommendation
Not too many-
to. And what
not
this
too
letter
many
of
initial
recommendation
requests.
does, what we wanna do is we wanna designate a spot
Yeah.
for it.